Welcome to Your Next Level Now with your host, Bob Donnell. As a human behaviorist, Bob has helped people from every walk of life reach their next level, both personally and professionally. Whether a celebrity, professional athlete, or entrepreneur, Bob has helped them align their behavior with their desired result in their life and career. This is Your Next Level Now with Bob Donnell.
So you can bring them in. One of the things I always say is, like Flo said, you just got to experience it. And then one of the other things I always say is, just become, you're coming as a guest the first time. So just come, enjoy, break bread, get to know people, or watch virtually and participate. So there is the man of the hour, Aaron Seal. Uh-oh, your phone's muted, it says.
Hello.
There you are. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. So sorry about the delay. I had some issues on my side, but I think I got them solved.
I think you're good now. Well, welcome. I appreciate you hopping on. You're in Louisiana, right?
Yes, sir.
Louisiana. I've never been there, but want to be there. And I've heard it's hot and humid. Is that the case right now?
That is correct.
Okay.
That is correct.
Well, Aaron, we this is a community of people we started 11 years ago, and we've just got some great people online. We've got some people in the group that you're a member of now. I saw that you accepted the invitation, so there's some great people. But I just want to jump right into the deep end, and the deep end is you witnessed some things as a kid that most parents or most kids don't ever want to won't ever witness and be a party of. And I've watched the movie. American Made.
Yes.
Unbelievable. And to know that you went through it firsthand, even though you were young, the ramifications of that beyond have been huge. So let me just jump in. Your dad gets recruited by the CIA.
Correct.
He starts flying these reconnaissance missions, but then kind of gets double trapped by the drug cartel.
Yes.
And starts flying for them. And how do you ever get out of that situation, right? You've got two entities that are bigger than life trying to control you. So your dad ends up getting assassinated. Now, how old were you at that time?
I was 9 when he was killed.
Man. And I just can't even imagine. And so I don't even want to act like I can. So I just want to say I'm sorry for that loss because I know it had ramifications beyond that point. But you had two siblings, right?
Well, yes, I have 2 full siblings.
Right.
I have older half brother and older half sister.
Okay.
And a sister I met 5 years ago through DNA testing.
Oh.
And she's probably one of my best friends in the world. She's one of my closest siblings.
Oh, that's very cool. Very cool.
But
Well,
movie Betrayed, it was mainly the 2 full siblings that I was living with.
Got it. Yeah, it was a powerful movie. When you go back and watch that, I mean, I'm sure you've watched it. What were some of the takeaways for you? I mean, I'm sure it was Hollywood, so there were some things that were just fabricated and made up, but what were the things that really stood out to you being a family member of this event?
Well, they had a movie that came out already once before in 91, which is only 5 years after my dad was killed. It was back when HBO was kind of still the big thing.
Yeah.
They had it was a 2-part, 2-hour, each week movie called Double Cross, the Barry Seal story. And Dennis Hopper played my dad in that film.
Yeah.
And so that one's a little more dramatic. They went mainly just by the court transcripts of things that have been testified in court. And so they didn't know a lot about the CIA involvement then. They knew just the time that the CIA had him take the pictures of Escobar loading cocaine on a plane.
Mm-hmm.
So that was that one was more dramatic. Like at the end of that one, they had the death scene where they show my father getting all blown up by the bullets and blood and guts. And people were asking me, would I be okay? Like, am I gonna be okay with seeing the American Made death scene, whatever it is? And after I saw it, I liked the way they did it because it seemed more kind of like an art film, the way the Doug Lyman, the producer, did American Made. Yeah. So it fit that film, but I preferred the ending from the first one because it was more the realistic. It was more, that's what I dealt with. That's what I remember. That was, the kind of the final memory of my dad was the blood and gut stuff. And so, I kind of preferred that ending, but
Yeah.
I mean, watching the movie, the first one it's strange because I had not a relationship, but I had this connection with Dennis Hopper and these people in this film. And it's a strange thing because it's my childhood. It's my stories, all I know. But then I can sit there and watch it on TV with someone, and it's just it's a weird thing, So then it just kind of transferred when the American Made came out. I was involved with the making of that one and such, but it's a unique thing. I've seen Tom Cruise on TV talking about my dad and admiring him for being a pilot, things of that nature. It's a surreal type connection.
Yeah.
Even like this time with social media, I became friends with the parents of the child actors in American Made. Now, they had us portrayed as much younger. I'm not sure why they did that. They had my baby sister as the oldest in American Made, and me and my brother as really young. My brother was 10 and I was 9 when he was killed. My sister was 6. But I became friends with the parents of the child actors that played us in that film. So that was even more unique. It's a little kid named Alex McQuarles that lives in Atlanta, Georgia, that played me in a film. I felt like his mom called me in 10 years and he had an issue. I'd be there for him just because he it's a strange little deal.
Right. Yeah, that's got to be an odd feeling and somewhat surreal. And as you've grown up, you kind of followed in his footsteps in some ways. Can you talk about that?
Yes, I did. I began. My father didn't drink. Well, he drank very rarely. Socially, he didn't smoke cigarettes. He never used drugs himself. I began using drugs when I was 15 years old, smoking marijuana and things like that, LSD, then ecstasy, and graduating on to, where I became completely addicted to drugs. I was a morphine addict. I shot up Dilaudid was my drug of choice. I did that for a better part of a decade. But in the meantime, just to fund all that lifestyle, I started right out of high school, started driving to Mexico and smuggling drugs back. Lots of pills, Valiums and Xanax and things like that, and selling all over the Gulf South and some sent up to the East Coast. And at first I really liked the game, making it back and having all this money that I knew I was about to make. And then as I became addicted to the drugs I was doing, I began to use heavier drugs because I knew what I was doing was wrong. I didn't feel like it was the right thing to do. I just thought make some quick money and take a little shortcut in life, if you will, but get out before I got into a deep place like my father got into, But then as I became addicted to the morphine, my habit got really expensive, and so it became I had to continue selling the drugs just to be able to fund the lifestyle I had. And I didn't know too much about drugs, and when the whole opiate addiction with the physical withdrawals and the mental and physical addiction, I had never known anybody dealt with that. I had never dealt with it. I didn't know that ended. I thought I was just stuck like that. And I had, this is, unless I have the drugs, I'll be sick like this the rest of my life. So I have to figure a way through this and just, continue down that path for a long time. I was arrested one time with they call it a rolling pharmacy full of pills. And luckily got out of that with 5 years probation, but and then had to deal with the drug addiction.
Wow. So you really didn't have to serve much time then over that?
No, I got probation for that because of the first felony offense, but I have been arrested before that countless times for fighting and stuff. I used to fight a lot in college bars and things like that. I once was arrested for attempted murder. Actually, while I was on the 5 years probation for the felony drug charges, I was arrested for an attempted murder charge, which had nothing to do with me. It was a fight I was watching and pulling a bunch of guys off a man that they were about to kill. And so when the police arrested all them, witnesses said I was involved in the fight, which I was telling them, y'all gonna kill this guy, stop,
Right.
So
wow.
I ended up somehow getting that dropped to disturbing the peace. And so I didn't violate my 5 years felony probation, but in and out of jails, just never spent any amount. I never was convicted of anything where I had to spend a lot of time in there, but I've been in and out of jails probably 30, 40 times and arrested for something.
Man, I was speaking with somebody who was incarcerated yesterday, and I said, so what's going to change when you get out? And they said, I'm going to try and not get caught. And, okay. Well, and I said, what about your drugs? And he said, I use them to numb myself.
Yeah.
And I don't know of another way to numb myself.
Yeah.
So is that accurate for you probably as well at some point?
Yes. I mean, when I started using the drugs, it was just recreation and fun with friends, but then at some point, if I heard it said like this, I was celebrating. I was celebrating being young and free, and I was celebrating, all of a sudden find this new quick way to make all this money. But at some point, I kept using, and I wasn't celebrating anymore. And it became something I had to do.
Wow.
And then when you throw in the ramifications of the addiction, the physical withdrawals and such, trying to get off, it was just I was stuck. It wasn't a party anymore.
Yeah, yeah. What's one of the fondest memories you have of your dad?
Wow. I would say probably I have a love for dogs. I don't have any natural children, but I have a rescue puppy, Echo. That's my pride and joy. And my dad would always help me get dogs as a kid. And he would always bring home a puppy or something. And I flew with him. We never lived in Mean, Arkansas. That was something they showed just in the movie, but we did go there all the time to the airport. And I was home one day sick from school or something, and he was going up to Mina, and so I flew up there with him for the day. And he was filming the big C-123, the military cargo transport plane that he takes the pictures out of. We went up there with a journalist from Baton Rouge who was doing an interview with him in it and filming the plane take off from the airport in Mina. And so as the men were getting around doing this, all these grown men, I knew when it was time to make myself scarce. So I went to the airport hangar, and there was a pack of wild, I guess, feral dogs, you would call them. They lived in the mountains in Arkansas, and they would come around the airport and eat all the trash. Well, I was trying to play with the dogs, and I realized that they were eating cockroaches off the ground in the airport hangar. And I felt so bad for him. So I went to my dad and I asked him, "Can I have some money?" And he always had $100 worth of quarters on him because he used payphones. And so I took the quarters and bought out all 3 vending machines at the airport and fed the dogs, with the food in there. Well, when I ran out of, it was an all-day process, when I ran out of money and food, all the dogs left but one. And so I named her Tailspin because her tail spun in a circle. And I asked my dad if I could bring her home. And he was like, "Sure, if you want the dog, you can have the dog." We were flying home on his Learjet, which at the time, those were the most expensive planes. They're the best of the best. I mean, he probably didn't allow some of his male friends to fly in the Learjet, And they were like, "Barry, you're going to let your son put that mangy dog on the Learjet and fly home?" He was like, "Well, yes, if Aaron wants the dog, my boy gets the dog." And we flew the dog home, and he had to hold her in his arms, in the car, driving her from the airport late that night to the house because he had men in suits in the car and me, and he holding a stinky dog in his arms. And she was the first love of my life. So that was probably the most special moment.
Yeah, yeah. I bet that was comforting at that time as well. Having a dog, and I remember being that same age, I wanting a dog, so it was fun. What as you look back on your life, I mean, you've had 2 movies now made, including part of your story. What what stands out to you as the most pivotal point in which it went from good to bad? I remember one part of the movie where they're trying to hide the money, and they've got so much money they've run out of places to hide it.
Yes,
I mean,
yes.
that's a problem that most people would love to have, but it was a problem because you've got to hide it, or you've got to launder it, you've got to do. What were some of the pivotal points of the actual story that stand out for you and helped you become the man you are today?
Well, I mean, I didn't know what was going on too much then. I started figuring out that we were a little different, and we had, I thought I guess when I was real young, I just didn't think about it. I thought everybody's dad had helicopters and airplanes we flew around in. I didn't realize it was that unique, or that I figured, well, dad's a pilot, so that just comes with being a pilot. But, as I got older, I realized that, that wasn't the case. I didn't find out that my dad was into anything illegal until right after he was killed. That we had family members at the house and such, and the news was on, and they were showing things about my dad on the news, and they were saying, Barry Seal, convicted drug smuggler. And I remember touching my mom's leg and said, "Mom, is that true what they're saying about dad on the news?" And she said, "Yeah, Aaron, it's true. Yeah, that's true." And so that was I started kind of putting some of the pieces together at that point. But as all the family were there the day he was killed, all my brothers and sisters were crying. I had all the families there comforting my mom. Everybody's upset, and I went out in the yard and was playing with my dog Tailspin because I didn't want to cry. And I remember walking out the yard and just playing with her. Because I remember thinking, okay, well, even though I have an older brother, I felt like I had to be the man of the family now because dad was gone. Yeah. And I never saw my dad cry, not once, and never even heard about him crying. So I thought to myself, well, if I got to be the man of the family, men don't cry. So dad didn't cry, I can't cry. So I internalized this. And I remember walking out in the yard playing with my dog, and my mother's mom, my grandmother, came out there and she said, Aaron, you don't want to come inside with the rest of the family? And I said, no, Granny, I just want to play with my dog. And she said, oh, Aaron, you don't want to cry? Everybody's crying. It's okay to cry. And I said, no, I don't want to cry. And so she kind of left me alone. And we were raised in the Catholic Church and a little bit of Baptist. And so I knew about God, and I believed in God. And I remember I knew that God was omnipotent and omniscient, that he was all powerful, that we learned that he controlled everything, and so I remember thinking, well, man, God must not like me very much. If he's in control of all this, and if he's, and he's all powerful, he wanted me to feel this pain of missing my dad gone. And I said, because he could have easily put me in the Joneses up the street. I can Aaron Jones, the accountant's son, he's still alive today. Wow. And I didn't regret that it was in that family, but I was like, wow, God knew this would happen, and he wanted me to feel this. And so either they're wrong and that God's not in control of everything, and this is just a random occurrence that God had no bearing on, or God did this on purpose to me, and he wanted me to feel his pain. So I don't like him very much if he is in control, and I'm going to set my life accordingly. And I kind of at that time hardened myself and just went the other direction.
Wow. That's a pretty pivotal moment to experience all of that at such a young age. And as you've grown, I mean, we've had some really good exchanges via text and Facebook Messenger. And what I've gotten to know is I just see an amazing heart in you. And so I think, sometimes we go through these breaking points to get to the softness so that we can become the people.
Well, that's one of the things that I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, speaking on the part about how I hardened myself and went the other way. Early in my 20s or mid 20s, as I started really seeking out God from the addiction issues I had, I started thinking, well, maybe I made a mistake on this or something, because I can't fix this on my own. I can't get out of this. I'm trapped. And I started praying and asking. I told Jesus, if you're as real as people say you are, if you can take this pain from me, I'll serve you. I didn't believe it could happen. I had a very strong supernatural encounter driving down the road in a work van one day with the Lord. And I began to realize as I grew spiritually that it wasn't, when I as a 9-year-old boy, it wasn't that God wasn't in control, and it wasn't that he wanted to hurt me. I began to realize that God was in control, and it wasn't that he hated me. He trusted me a lot, and he was able to do that. The reason I had that pain, that much pain, is because he could trust me with that pain. That one day I would get things straightened out, and I would use that pain to help others. And so that was a major breaking point for me to realize it's not that he hated me. He trusts me a lot, and I have a big responsibility with this pain to get myself in line so I can share this with other people and help them along their journey. Because most people, when I share that with them, a lot of people have had probably worse things happen to them or equally as bad, but most people I kind of would say they think mine's on a grander scale. So when they're able to see me share with it and speak from a place of peace and a place of comforting them with it, it encourages a lot of people. And so I began to, and that just, solidified to me that that's what it was. He trusted me with that, and that I would do the best I could with it once I got it fixed.
So I love the idea. It wasn't he hated you, he trusted you. How do you encourage people? Because there's a lot of people that go through something and then they use that as an excuse rather than using it as a reason. And it sounds like you just made it a reason versus an excuse. What do you tell somebody who's going through something right now, having a struggle? Maybe they just lost their business, lost their job, lost a loved one, whatever, lost a relationship. What do you tell them about how to flip the script from that God hated you to that God trusted you? What do you say to that?
You just got you really gotta look at the circumstances and try to get a perspective on it. The perspective is key. Obviously, my perspective at 9 wasn't what it was years later. Through my own through things that I consider self-inflicted later on, I needed to reframe my perspective on things. And it's not some kind of magic trick that, like, just because I see it a different way, that means it is a different way. I don't think life's always as black and white as people want to make it. It's definitely shades of gray in there, And so it's however I choose to see it. I can see it this way or see it the other way. Seeing it as a negative is not beneficial to me or anyone around me, evidenced by the track marks on my arms. So if I want to ever get out of this, if I ever want to move forward, or I could die the way I was, for me, it became a life and death decision. Whenever I do something, I do it fully. I'm all in. So when I was a criminal, I was all in, and when I try to help others, I'm all in. So I just had to see it. Do I want to die this way? Is this what I want my legacy to be? Do I want to be, do I want to be the guy that they found dead in the ditch somewhere? Or did I ever believe I had a higher purpose than this in my life, or want something more? And if I did, then I'm have to start seeing these things from a different perspective, and then using that to see it's beneficial to other people's lives. I'm a big believer in empathy. I believe empathy is probably my greatest quality. I try to look at, not what people have done, but why did they do that? What caused them to do that? It's things I did in my life I thought I would never do, and would never do them again since. But because, so I tell you what had me in that mind frame, and that place where I thought that was acceptable behavior. And so, I just got to pull yourself out of it. Like the first meeting I listened from you with Israel and Rebecca, I think back in February or January, they hosted you, and you said this phrase: "Sit in it, sit in it." You got to sit in it for a while. And so once you sit in something, you're going to have to figure out a way, if you want to get out of it, how to stand up in it, how to wash it off, and how to move forward.
Yeah. Wow, that's powerful. Thank you for sharing that. Just because the heart I'm seeing, even through our texts, we're just like, this is a good man who's gone through some horrific things. And I'm like, I'm always curious as to how somebody got to where they're at, because there's a lot of people that went through maybe not even as much as you, less, and are still wallowing in it. So I'm always impressed by people that can change that for them. I have a token that I call price paid, that the price you've paid to be who you are today is all the circumstances you've been through. And you can either look at it as a price, as an investment, or you can look at it as a cost and have no return on investment. So I want to celebrate you for turning that price paid into an ROI, and so that you can help other people. So thank you for being that person.
Well, thank you. Thank you. That's good stuff.
Thank you. So I want to open it up for some people that have questions or comments. And then guys, go watch the movie. I'm going to go back and watch the first movie. What was the name of the first movie again?
It's called Double Cross, the Barry Seal story. They never converted it. They never converted it to DVD. I don't believe this was back when VHS was still a thing, but it's on YouTube. Okay. You can watch it on YouTube for free.
Perfect. I'm going to go watch it because I was fascinated by the story, and now that there's another part to it, I would definitely want to see it. So guys, watch that. If you have a question or a comment, just go ahead and you can either raise your hand or just bring yourself on. Ask a question, make a comment, is perfectly acceptable. Flo, go ahead.
Hey, Aaron, thanks so much for joining us today and sharing. What we didn't get into, I know you met the son of the person who is responsible for assassinating your dad. Mm-hmm. How did you come about doing the forgiveness part?
Well, that started off in I guess 2007-ish or 8, whenever Facebook started getting kind of popular. Mm-hmm. I got a message on Facebook from this Spanish name. It was Felix Dixon Bates Perella. And this message inbox, I don't know you, Aaron, but I was a business partner with the cartel and of your dad. And he testified against me, and I went to jail for a decade. And this gentleman had become a believer and was going to a local church that I happened to be friends with the pastor at. And when he shares this testimony, when this guy gets out of jail, he shares it with the pastor there. He says, "Well, I know Barry Seal's son, Aaron. He's a great guy. He's an evangelist. And I was doing inner city street evangelism at the time. And he said, I think you should reach out to him. I think he'd love to hear from you." And this guy's like, no. I don't. And he's like, and the pastor's like, "No, I really think you should." So this guy sends me this inbox message. And I didn't know the name. So I asked my mom. She said, yeah, he was like the betting cartel's New Orleans business manager. She had even went out on a double date with my dad and this guy and his wife a couple times. And so I realized in that moment, wow, my dad's been dead a while. And even though I lived this, it's, there's movies and stuff, and it's kind of like a story still. I can repeat it like a story any day. I probably spoken about it once or 1,000 times every day of my life, But I was like, these are real people and these real consequences that my dad was involved with, but he's no longer here. And it seems to me that, I don't know why this guy inboxed me. I know the pastors told him to, but like, I just saw some of the ramifications of this are going to cross my path. And I need to make a decision right now how to respond to this.
Wow.
Did I want to be rude to the guy? Did I want to, because he even said, hey, don't respond onto this message if you're uncomfortable. I only did this because Pastor Ricky insisted. And so I realized then, I need to make a decision. And so I said, first off, let me apologize to you that my dad was willing to testify against you and that cost you 10 years of your life. And the guy was, he said, no, your dad put me in jail, saved my life, actually, because he said the cartels, they were going to cut me next. I was, because I knew too much, and they couldn't, they weren't able to reach me in prison. And I realized in prison how dark my life had become, and rededicated his heart to the Lord, and was now, a happy believer out of jail. He and I became really close over our messages. I'd even invited him to my wedding at the time. And, but then he died of a massive heart attack right before then. And so we had that great, good friendship going. And I thought maybe that would be the only time. But then, so after that, when I realized that forgiveness and peace was possible with people from my dad's past, I had that foundation. So then 2014, 2015, I'm reading an article someone posted on Facebook, and it's about Juan Pablo Escobar, the son of Pablo Escobar, and that he's a motivational speaker and goes around and speaks to young people about, not going the way of the cartels, that, it's glamorous and all that. It looks glamorous on TV, but he speaks about a time where they were on the run. They had, contracts out to kill all of them. And he's sitting in an apartment in hiding, and they have a crate of $3 million in cash, for spending money for him. And he didn't eat for 3 days and there was a store directly across the street from his apartment, but he was so afraid to leave the apartment. He had $3 million in cash. He didn't buy bread for 3 days.
Wow.
And so he said, yeah, that sounds glamorous to have 3 million, but I had to fast for 3 days when there was a bread store directly across the street. I was terrified to walk across the street. And so I was reading this article. It's a New York Times article, and I'm reading, I'm like, wow, that's very big of him. I knew Escobar had children. I didn't know how many or what. He's got a daughter. He had a daughter that's exactly my sister's age, and Juan Pablo is my age. He's a few months younger than me. So I was going to email the New York Times author who wrote the story to see if he could connect me with Juan Pablo. But at the end of his article, he had his Twitter handle, and so I don't do a lot of Twitter, but I had one, so I got on Twitter and I sent him a message, and he immediately responded. And I sent him a similar message. I want to apologize to you that my dad was willing to testify against your father. I said my dad was just trying to save his bone butt and do what was best for his family. If you don't want to respond to this, feel no hard feelings, but I would love to connect with you. And he and I connected right away. We began chatting. I flew to Mexico City later that year to meet him. All my friends and family told me I shouldn't do that because my last interaction with these people was my dad's brains on the ground. I didn't know him. I knew he was doing some nice work, but he could have been doing that to get off of some charges. I didn't know. Yeah. People were telling me I shouldn't go, and that cartels in Mexico could kill us both as just like a trophy thing, So everyone told me not to go, and but I ended up going, and we met at a hotel. We had filmed it for a documentary on forgiveness. Like the producers kept us separate and all, till we actually met on camera the first time. But I haven't been able to release it because I'm still under life rights for the American-made film, and Universal won't release that. But I still have the footage. And Juan Pablo is one of my closest friends in the world still now to this day.
Wow.
I consider him like a brother. He's the ambassador for peace. He does a lot of. He's not allowed in America, but he can go to all the other nations. But he's become the world ambassador for peace for one of the larger, international peace organizations. And he tells people all the time. He says, "But Aaron Seals, who taught me the most about everything I know about forgiveness." And so.
Wow.
Powerful.
that connection is what I realized, there's life in these connections. It's, if someone's not unrepentant and there's nothing much we can do, but I'm willing, if someone feels like they've done me wrong and they want to, and I extend my hand of friendship, if they want to accept it, then let's work together.
Yeah, man.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Love that story. Thanks for sharing. Great question, Flo. Who else has a question or a comment? I saw somebody. There we go. Pearl.
Just a quick one.
Okay.
Well, you're a prime example of forgiveness is for the forgiver, not the forgivee. Good job.
Yeah,
Thank you.
definitely. Thank you.
When I was,
you carry.
yeah, it's what else can you do though?
You can live in misery and let yourself rot, which you obviously haven't done.
I'm just trying to survive.
Good job. Good job.
When I went and met Juan Pablo at his thing in Mexico City, he was about the third day I was there. He was doing a speaking engagement he would do things at a school. First, they wouldn't hire him because of who he was. Right. And so he started telling what he did, which I thought was brilliant. This way to sow a seed, which he didn't even understand that principle. The adults wouldn't pay for tickets to see him at first. So he'd go into a city and tell them, if the adults at this, at all these Catholic churches and schools, and he'd tell them, if the adults will all buy a ticket to hear me in the evening, I'll go to 2 schools during the day and speak to the children for free. And now he does stadium tours all over South America from doing that. But wow. I was at one of his speaking events there, and his manager asked, "Was it okay if he mentions that I was in attendance?" And I was like, "Sure." Well, they didn't want to say my name for some reason. He just said while he was speaking, one of my father's victims is actually in the crowd tonight, and it's just proof that peace, forgiveness, and reconciliation is real. Well, afterwards, I went up to him and I said, when you brought that up, he said, "Well, no, the manager said that was okay." I said, "No, only one problem with that. I'd prefer you refer to me by name, and if you don't refer to me by name, just never refer to me as your father's victim, because I'm not your father's victim, and nor I'm no one's victim, nor will I ever be." I said, that's not who I am. I said, the world may classify me that way, but I am not victim. I was never victimized by your dad. I've made my decisions in life. I set my life accordingly. I live my life. Things happen, but I am no one's victim, or I wouldn't be here today.
Oh, Aaron, that's powerful. Thank you for sharing that. That's awesome. I saw somebody else try and hop on who has a question. There we go.
I'd like to ask one.
Yeah.
Aaron, your story is truly inspirational. Appreciate you sharing that. I lived a very similar situation where I lost my father when I was 10 years old due to the communist regime in Afghanistan. How have you dealt with the pain of the loss?
Well, obviously, when I was younger, I just held it inside. As I got older, I medicated it to kill it. Now it just kind of like what Bob says, it's about sitting in it. It is what it is. There's not a day that goes by I don't think about my dad. There's not a day that goes by that I don't miss him. I know that, and I would think about, and my friends growing up, because my dad had so much money, like, man, if your dad was still alive, we'd have this and that, and I said, I would think about, yeah, we'd be jet setting around the world. And then I thought about, I was like, and I probably would have been dead by 19. I'd have been a pilot before I could even drive a car. I'd have had the nicest plane out there, full of cash and access to anything I wanted. I almost killed myself just for driving a Honda, with barely any money. So I think, it could have been, it could have been great for a little while. It could have been even worse, could have been even worse. Like my brother and I both could have died in a plane crash in our teens, because my dad didn't use substances and fly, but we would have, so things could have been worse. So I try to look at the pain is just, it is what it is. Life goes on. I know my dad wouldn't want me sitting there living in misery and knowing that his actions could have possibly led to the trauma in his son's life, where they found him dead with a syringe in his arm in a ditch somewhere. That wasn't a life that he gave his life for his family. He was just trying to help give his family a leg up. And so to kind of honor his legacy, and people would say things about me forgiving these people. They would say, I'd spit in their faces. I can't believe you're doing that. You're dishonoring your dad's legacy. I said, no, my dad had a heart as big as this world. My dad just made some mistakes trying to get ahead. I said, it's honoring my father's legacy. My father could be no more proud of me than to extend the hand of forgiveness to the people that harmed him and harmed us the most.
Wow.
The forgiveness part is the most inspirational, and I resonate with that. It took me a long while, but it's so nice and refreshing to hear that. So appreciate you sharing that. Thank you.
Definitely. Thank you. Thanks for the comment. Okay, one more. Anybody else got a question or a comment? Let's see. I see some people online. All right. Well, then we'll just wrap this up. Aaron, I just want to tell you, thank you for being the man that you are today. And thank you for being willing to go through and sit with all of the pain, all of the stuff that you had to deal with so that you could be this man today. And I know, I know our friendship's going to continue. And I'm really grateful to Rebecca and Isaac to be able to do that, because I just I love them. They're just such good quality people.
Yeah.
And Isaiah, so going forward, what's the final comment that you would like to that you think maybe if your dad were here today, what do you think he would be telling people?
Well, I've never been asked that question. I think he would tell people I'm proud of my boy Aaron.
I agree, and a lot to be proud of. So,
and also, I think you saw it on Facebook recently. Things didn't stop with Escobar's. That was kind of the next step, because though his family, who I've become friends with, his mother, Escobar's widow, I consider them family. I then became friends with the actual assassins that are in jail for killing my dad. One of them was dying in prison, and I reached him on an email, because it's illegal for me to speak with them because I'm considered a victim of theirs. I reached one on email as he was dying of cancer in the federal prison here, and I extended my friendship to him, and he accepted it. And then before he died, he emailed one of the other prisoners that's in jail in North Louisiana. If you get a chance ever somehow to find them, Barry Seal's son Aaron has reached out to me and forgave us. And so then I had to reach out to the other gentleman through the legal channels. It took 4 years of going through counseling and things to a victim offenders program for me to be able to meet with him, which I did that last week. I think you saw the post on Facebook. Maybe it took 4 years to get to him, and I reached out my arms to hug him, and he wanted to hug. So I've kind of made the full circle of finding, if there's other people out there have been affected by the situation, if they cross my path, and I'll extend the same the same empathy.
Wow. Powerful life, powerful story, and a powerful impact that you're going to continue to have in this life. So thank you for being that person.
Thank you, guys. And thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. And guys, go into the Facebook group. This will be recorded and put in there as well. So go in there. If you want to go back and watch it again, do so. Other than that, guys, get out there, make it a great week, and enjoy your next level. Thanks again, Aaron.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to Your Next Level Now with Bob Donnell. To find out more, call us at 949-542-6398. That's 949-542-6398. Or you can find more information on our website at everythingnextlevel.com. That's everythingnextlevel.com.